What's up, everybody? Happy Packers postgame. Wasn't expecting to do a live postgame show, but was able to get out of Lambeau relatively quick at the end and figured I would just come on for a little bit before the condensed version comes up and we start our full to-do list of things to do tonight, getting to the podcast and everything else. But I figured it'd be fun just to chat with you guys for a little bit here. So we'll go for maybe 30 minutes, maybe 45 if we're having a ton of fun. The almighty, I'll get to questions right away. Let me actually just start over. Obviously a really nice win for Green Bay. I love the shutout in this one. We kind of talked about going into this. I said 41-10. I said they go on a 31-point run. I said it would be 10-10 after the first. Well, that didn't come to fruition. They did go on a 31-point run. In fact, they went on a 34-point run. I know that it felt a little bit maybe wonky, disjointed in the middle. The offense had a little bit of a struggle towards the middle of the game, kind of that early third quarter period, not too dissimilar to kind of Seattle. Here's how I kind of viewed that game. That game was over at 21-0. I mean, just period, end of story. The game was unequivocally, absolutely over. Everyone in the stadium knew it. And I would argue that the energy from like everything from stadium to offense to defense, like wasn't that high. It was just kind of like this drag it out game. I give the Saints defense a ton of credit in this one. They could have quit immediately and they just kept making Green Bay grind and kind of go on these super lengthy drives, which credit to Green Bay, they were able to do. And then a couple times they were able to get them to punt, kind of in the middle there. The offense maybe, could have connected on a couple more passes, but overall, like I say, you go touchdown to start the game. It's 21-0. It's 24-0. And like I said, the game was done there. And you also end up in this really sort of weird scenario where you don't want to, you're easily your best player in that game going, right, was Josh Jacobs, but you had already given him the ball a ton. And where you're at in this season and what you have to play for kind of remaining, you kind of just want to rest him. So you're basically taking your best player off the field and saying, we're not going to use him anymore. You don't want to go super anything out of kind of vanilla because you don't want to put some of your best stuff out there in a game that is over already. And to all the struggles that the Saints have in all the areas where they're terrible, like one of the things that they're really good at is quarterback rate, defensive quarterback rating. And they really make you grind it out. And that's what they did. Like they played their normal Saints brand of football. And like I said, credit to them because they could have just quit and just said, you know what, we don't need this. Our season's going to be done in 2 weeks anyway. We don't need to keep battling here in the third quarter in a game we have 0% chance to win, in a game that doesn't matter anyway. And they kept battling. So Green Bay had to sort of grind it out. Green Bay was kind of going vanilla. They didn't have their best player in the game in Josh Jacobs. And the Saints were playing a grinded out defense. And it made it difficult in that middle stretch. And again, you had the game was done. It was already done with. The job had already been accomplished. It's not a total cop-out. I'm not saying that Green Bay couldn't have done a little bit better. I would have liked to have seen maybe them bend New Orleans to their will just a little bit more, specifically in the running game at times. I thought there were a lot of inefficient runs, a lot of 1-2, -1 yard sort of gains in there. But we are being ultra nitpicky. And, I like I said, I did think it felt a little bit just, I don't know, kind of sleepwalky at times, but not on defense. I thought Green Bay's defense was beyond tremendous in this game. And what they were able to do to get the first shutout of the season. What did they say? Like the Saints have had like 320 some games and only one shutout. They were only shut out once in that entire time. It's just been really remarkable to see what this defense is able to accomplish. Now, the Saints are a shell of a team on offense. Rookie quarterback, not a great offensive line. I mean, your biggest threat in this game is like Juwan Johnson. Like you don't even have MVS, no Chris Olave, no wide receivers that are going to threaten you, no running backs that are going to threaten you. They just didn't have anything to kind of lean on, right? All of that being said, go back to the Carolina game a year ago with a rookie quarterback in a completely disjointed, really sort of bleh offense, right? And they put up 30 against Green Bay in December. Well, they were kind of in the middle of going on that run, or just at the beginning of going on that run, however you want to view it, depending on if you view the run starting with the Chargers game, if that the run kind of starts with that Carolina game. But they were just putting up the Panthers put up 30 on a Packers team that was getting ready to go to the playoffs with a rookie quarterback and a crappy offense. And this was a night and day difference from Green Bay, where they complete the shutout and just never give the Saints any opportunity, really even to put up points, much less win the game or anything like that. To have the shutout, to really bend the Saints offense to your will, And I think what they're doing on defense has been pretty remarkable, regardless of opponent or anything like that. They're just not allowing wide receivers to beat them on the outside with any level of consistency. They're not allowing big plays down the field, and they're not allowing you to run the football. And yes, they've had some issues in some of these games with the middle of the field, but really since Edgerrin Cooper's been back, that part of the field has also become a lot tougher. And they're not even at full capacity. No Evan Williams, no Jair Alexander, no Javon Bullard. And they're still sort of doing this against, yes, a very, basically a college offense out there. I get it. I understand it. But that was a complete performance from the defense. Love that. They said offense, they did their job going up 21-0 early in the game. And job was basically done at that point. Special teams, I thought McManus was tremendous. Kick coverage could have been a little bit better. I don't know. That's all. I mean, Waylon maybe had a punt that he'd probably like to have back, but yeah, overall, you're never going to be too upset with a 34-0 performance, even if it did feel a little sleepwalky towards the middle of that game. All right, let's get to some super chats. Like I said, I'm not going to be here super long, so if you want to get your questions in, make sure to get them in. I will get to super chats first, then we'll try to answer as many questions as I can. Love with a quite poor game. Defense, fantastic. Like I said, I think you have to look at this game when it was in the balance in those first few drives. And Green Bay kind of did what they wanted to on offense, put together some grinded out performance, just situations early in the game. Thought they were fantastic in the red zone, fantastic on 3rd and 4th down. And when Love had to come up with some throws early in that game when they kind of needed it, and not like needed it, but you get my point, when they, were still trying to develop their offense and get up 7-0, 14-0, 21-0. He came up just fine. And like I said, this is the 4th ranked passing defense when it comes to quarterback passer rating in the NFL, and they grinded it out. Would you have liked to seen the pass offense be a little bit better? Yes, you would have. I didn't think some of the deep shots down the field, I don't think it was all on Jordan either. I think the receivers needed to do a little bit better. Was it Jordan's best game? No, probably not Jordan's best game. Probably not one that we're going to look back at on the highlight sheet and be like, oh my goodness, look at what Jordan did in this game. He was efficient. I mean, from a turnover standpoint. Yes, there was the one ball that was almost picked on a tip pass. Outside of that, he did not put the ball in harm's way. 16 of 28, 182, a touchdown, no picks, 88.7 rating. What did he do? 1 carry for 2 yards on the ground, picking up a first down on a QB sneak. I don't know. Like I said, I give a lot of credit to the Saints defense. They ran the ball. The Packers ran the ball mostly well, 39 carries, 188 yards, 4.8 yards per carry, and 3 touchdowns. And it was just a grinded out game. The Saints made it so that everything was going to be contested and that you had to kind of take the short stuff. And I thought Jordan, for the most part, did a good job of that. It's not a brutal performance, anything like that. I'm not leaving this game being like, oh man, I've got a lot of concerns about Jordan Love. Just one of those days, not a fully efficient day on offense for the passing attack. I thought the Saints did a good job defensively. They'll go back to the drawing board on some of that stuff. And like I said, once it was 21-0, I thought Green Bay, was in a situation where there's no Josh Jacobs out there really. And then, again, not just going a little bit more vanilla. You don't want to put a bunch of stuff out there when you don't need to. And there's not, what are you trying to prove at that point? And they still put up 34 in this game. So I don't know. To me, if that's your key takeaway from this one, that Jordan had quite a poor game, I wouldn't go that far. I think that's aggressive. I think he had a slightly off game, like not his best game, still was easily enough to win. And when he needed it early in the game to come up with some throws, some plays, he certainly did so to get them out to that 21-0 lead. Is it weird to say that Love didn't have his best game? No, that's okay. Not the end of the world. Totally fine. Happens. How does Marshawn Lloyd fit in this offense now? I mean, he doesn't in 2024, if we're just being honest here. I mean, it would have to he has to get back and cleared, right? He's not even practicing yet. There's 2 weeks left in the regular season. He's not even practicing. That's number one. So he has to get back and just cleared to practice. Not even cleared to play, just cleared to practice. He hasn't even cleared that bar yet. So even if you say, like, usually when you activate somebody and get them ready to practice, it usually takes at least 2 weeks to get them going, which then eliminates Minnesota and Chicago. And now you're in the playoffs. All right. Even if he gets cleared by wild card weekend, divisional round week, anything like that, there's no way that you can just reintegrate him in the offense come playoff time. That's going to be Josh Jacobs. Like, Josh Jacobs, in a huge chunk of that's not coming off the field. When he does, you're going with guys that you trust, that have their legs underneath them, that have been playing with the team, and most importantly, can pass protect. And you're going to give those opportunities to Brooks and Wilson based on what they've done so far. There's almost next to zero opportunity unless he gets back healthy now to practice, goes a couple weeks, is ready to go come playoffs, and you probably have a couple injuries. That's the only way that you're looking at Marshawn Lloyd as somebody who can probably help you this season. I just don't see it. And it's okay. It's not the end of the world. It's a redshirt season for Marshawn. He'll come back fresh legs next year, ready to go. And I'm excited what he can be in this offense. But if you're looking at anything in this season, I think it's probably best to not hope for anything. And if you get anything, it's a pleasant surprise. But I think that ship has sailed for this season, and it'll, like I said, ultimately be pretty much a redshirt season for him. Eventually, though, by the way, Matthew, he fits in great. Like, he'll be a really fun playmaker in this offense. He's a really good fit overall. He's going to bring some juice to the running back room. Really nice change of pace. And you look at Chris Brooks, Josh Jacobs, Emmanuel Wilson. These are run through your face running backs, right? And obviously Jacobs can make some people miss, and Wilson's got good speed and things like that. But Marshawn Lloyd is going to make you miss. He's got great jukes. He's got a lot of agility, can again make people miss in the open field. It's going to be a different style of running back, a different type of running back, just another flavor that this Packers offense kind of doesn't have right now. And I'm excited when they do have that added in. And I think it will be a value add, but just probably not this year. Adam, thank you for the super chat. Do you think we relied too heavily on deep shots? Completely unrelated, but I have to shout out Cooper. Yeah, Cooper was really, really good again. No, I don't think they relied. I mean, they ran the ball 39 times in this game. No, I don't think they rely too much on deep shots. I mean, this is in right now, the modern NFL, what a lot of teams are doing and having success with is you have three guys that are generally going out on routes, usually intermediate to deep. You're trying to find an open guy or somebody that you can hit down the field with one of your three wideouts down the field. And then you've got Tucker Kraft and Josh Jacobs, or your tight end and running back, that are chipping and then going for underneath stuff. And if you can't find something down the field, or if you can, you're going to take that shot. If you can't, then you're going to take your check down to Jacobs or to Tucker Kraft or whoever it might be in at the time. And then you'll check it down and they'll get their run or their yards after the catch. And when you've got guys like Kraft and Jacobs who can make that first person miss, or you can run through that first person, it ends up in a pretty solid gain more often than not. And that's kind of a lot of what the modern NFL offense is right now. I don't think that they are living too much or living and dying too much by the deep shot. I did think Jordan was connecting on those. It's weird because I thought earlier in the season, Jordan was connecting well on the deep shots, but some of the other stuff felt a little bit off. Right now, everything else kind of feels pretty good, but the deep shots just feel a little bit off from Jordan and the receivers. I would like to see them get a little bit more in that rhythm, but you have to remember, look at, like, when was the last time Green Bay allowed a deep shot down the field, right? Just think about it. When was the last time Green Bay allowed a deep shot down the field? This is what NFL defenses are doing. They're making it insanely hard for you to get deep shots down the field. We talked about it with Joe Barry all the time. And yes, defenses have changed in the stuff that they're showing you from a coverage pre-snap look and post-snap look, and some of the simulated pressures that they're giving you and some of the stuff that they're doing with that. But defenses are still ingrained right now to really not give up big explosive plays. Like that's the number one way that you're going to allow points on a drive, is by giving up an explosive. It's still really hard for offenses to go and do your, 12 play, 80-yard drives. And it was really impressive by Green Bay that for the most part of the day, they were actually able to do that and put those sustained drives together. But it's really hard to get those shots down the field. So I think it's a little bit of a work in progress. We know they can do it, and we know that it needs to sort of be within this offense. But you also have to remember, just the threat of a Watson down the field, or just the threat of taking those shots, just as almost a reminder to opposing defenses of, hey, we're going to take these shots down the field. It just backs those safeties up a little bit more. It's just it's a warning shot along the brow, if nothing else, of like, hey, any moment, anytime we can do this, we're going to take our shot. You better be ready for it. It plants that seed in defenses' minds, and it just gets them to play back a little bit more. And you do that, and it just opens up things underneath. It opens up things for your running game. You have to be able to take those shots, and you have to be able to connect on some of them. Would I like to see a bit more efficiency there? Absolutely. But it's tough. It's a tough world out there trying to complete those deep shots down the field. It's what every defense is trying to take away. And, sometimes you get a great completion down the field to Jaden Reed, like Love had in this one, like Malik Willis had a little bit later. And sometimes it's going to be a little bit tougher to complete those, but you have to take them nonetheless. So, no, I do not think they're relying too heavily on it. And I think it absolutely has to be a part of this offense that they continue to go to and, quite frankly, continue to improve upon. Shrimpus, thank you for the super chat. The Packers have allowed 13 more points than the current best defense. The LA Chargers finished the year strong, and they could have the #1 points defense in the NFL. Yeah, they're looking really, really good right now. I love how Jeff Hafley is operating this defense. We have to take it within context. When they played a really good offense in Detroit, they allowed 30 plus, right? When they went against a beat up 49ers offense, a very cold Miami offense, a very bad Saints offense, yeah, they looked a lot better. Not apologizing for it, just calling a spade, just being like, we can be truthful about it, right? When they've gone against some bad defenses, or excuse me, bad offenses, they look pretty damn good. Guess what? That in and of itself is a massive upgrade from where they were in the previous seasons. That's not something they've been able to do. I mean, how many times did Green Bay go up against bad offenses and we're just pulling our hair out, being like, what is going on? How can you be this bad against bad offenses? And that was such a huge issue in years past. That seems to be done. And like, I can't stress to you guys enough how much really good football players and even really good teams are about beating up on either teams or players that are less than them. Like, that's what this is about. Like, if you get a matchup, if you're going up against a second or third string offensive tackle, offensive lineman, corner, wide receiver, whatever it might be, you better be able to win that matchup. It's really hard to win against the best of the best. Guess what? Justin Jefferson's going to get his next week. This is not, some random fourth string Saints wide receiver that you're going against with Spencer Rattler at quarterback. When you get Justin Jefferson next week, you're going to get beat some. Same with Jordan Addison. They're going to find theirs. You're not going to win and have those big time performances. So when you go against the third, fourth, fifth string or whatever it might be, you better make your money there. Like, those better be the games that you play some really good football and take advantage of it. TJ Watt's not always winning against the Trent Williamses of the world. Now, he's talented enough where he can, but he's winning when he gets the advantageous matchups consistently, constantly, doing it over and over. And right now with Green Bay's defense, they are showing that if you don't have the big time playmakers, if you don't have studs on offense, they're just going to shut you down. And that is a big time step in the right direction. And even if you have some of those playmakers, Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle with Tua at quarterback, they're showing that they can contain those much better than they have in years past, which is a huge step in the right direction. And again, if you have a 49ers offense that's a shell of itself, it's a practice squad offense, or that you have a Saints offense that's a practice squad offense, then they're shutting them down. And again, that's something they have not done in the past. Now you get Minnesota a week from now. Let's see how they're doing. Let's see how they match up against that Vikings defense. And we'll see, is Evan Williams back? We'll see if Javon Bullard might be able to play. We'll see if Jair can play. We'll take it one step at a time, and we'll get to Sunday. It'll be here before you know it with the holidays. And then again, a short week coming off a Monday night game. It's going to be a fun matchup, and you're going against some of the best of the best. Now, how do they do in that game? Aaron Jones, TJ Hawkinson, Jordan Addison, Justin Jefferson. It's going to be a different ball game. I'm not expecting a shutout. I would like to see them, held under 30. That'd be a good step. That's what I want to see. Now, can they do it when it matters most against a really good team? That's the next step for this defense, and that's going to be a really good test this upcoming week. Thanks for the chat, Shrimpus and B Brown. Thank you for gifting those podcast memberships. Hopefully the 5 of you who got that will enjoy those and check out all the extra content available to you. The short diabetic, Wayne could have thrown the dagger after Nixon's kick return, just completely control the game from the jump. Great win. Plus, Zane Anderson is real. He's real and he's spectacular. I thought he played a really nice game. And that's like, we need to talk about that a little bit too. We can talk about the Saints being beat up on offense, right? Shell of themselves or whatever. A starting secondary of Jair Alexander, Javon Bullard, and Evan Williams is a pretty good start to a secondary, right? Like, Green Bay's missing three of their preferred starters, three of their top five, arguably their three of their top five defenders in the secondary were out of this game, including their top cover corner, their number 2 safety, and their slot defender in Javon Bullard. That's a decent amount to be missing And it could have been, hey, you know what? Yes, they have some backups on offense, but you're going against Carrington Valentine, Eric Stokes, Keyshawn Nixon, Zane Anderson. Those are matchups that other teams, or that the Saints could potentially pick on or take advantage of. And I thought Stokes looked good in this game. I thought Valentine looked good in this game. I thought especially Zane Anderson looked good in this game. I thought Nixon was phenomenal in this game at first glance. So kudos to the defensive backfield. Green Bay was missing some guys too, and they made it work. New Orleans did not. And depth is a huge part of this league, and you have to be able to have guys to step up. And listen, I'll be the first to say, right? I don't think, and I have not thought that Eric Stokes should be the guy that's out there when you're healthy and playing snaps. I don't think he's at that level. But when you have an Eric Stokes be able to step up and start in a game like this, when you're missing Jair Alexander and Javon Bullard, and you have to have another guy out there, that's a hell of a piece to have. And this is why I've said, for all the things that I've said about Eric, I've never once said cut him, get rid of him, or I've never said anything like that. Do I think he can be like your number 4, number 5 corner and step up in games like this? Absolutely. I thought he looked really good today from what I saw. We'll look at it on the all 22, but credit to him for coming in and playing well in that game. Same thing, Carrington Valentine, Nixon, etc., and Zane Anderson as well. Like, you go into the season feeling like, all right, this is going to be Xavier McKinney, Javon Bullard, Evan Williams at safety. Like, remember going back, you're thinking then it's going to be Kitano Adapo and then maybe even Anthony Johnson Jr. Like, Zane Anderson getting snaps at safety was not on, I don't think, anyone's bingo card going into the season. I think people were still a little bit surprised that Zane even made the 53-man roster at cutdown time. I don't think many people saw that coming. I think I did. That wasn't me tooting trying to toot my own horn. I think I had Zane on my 53, but I could be wrong on that. But either way, he's been really impressive in his opportunities out on the field. Came up with a big interception in this one, and just kind of cool to see. Those are always the really fun stories. And it's the tale. I don't know if I want to say tale as old as time or whatever, but like, if you are a fringe roster guy, make your name on special teams first. And the way that you get active as part of the way that you make the 53 is going to be through special teams. If you're a fringe roster guy, then once you make the team that make the 53 on special teams, being good on special teams is going to make you active on game days on the 48-man roster. And then prepare yourself, get ready, because at some point, if you're part of a 48-man roster, at some point, your name, your number is going to get called. And if you're ready and you go out and perform, there's your opportunity. There's your chance to show that you can make it in this league. And Zane Anderson has got his name called a couple times. He started out, again, fringe roster guy, makes the team based on special teams, makes the 48 due to teams. And then what happens? A couple guys get hurt. He gets his opportunity, shows he can play, gets a start over Kitano Adapo and obviously Omar Brown, and makes the most of it. And now it looks like, hey, you've got a really nice depth piece at safety. A piece where it looks like if you absolutely have to play Zane Anderson, you don't really feel like it's an issue. You feel like he can go out there and start if need be. And I feel like what we've seen out of Zane Anderson so far has been really impressive, and to the point where you're not concerned if he's out there. That's a huge step. That's going to make Zane Anderson some money based on what he's done so far. Dubs, best wide receiver on this team, wide receiver 1. Yeah, you could certainly make that argument. Still think Jaden Reed's going to have a big say in that. And Christian Watson's going to have a say in that. Hopefully he's okay. But yeah, Dobbs has been good. He'll continue to be good. And I'm very happy that he's a Green Bay Packer. No question about it. How do you think our defense stacks up against Minnesota? I'll tell you in a week. Adam Kepke, I appreciate the super chat. I don't mean to be, not answering your question or whatnot, but I'll tell you next week. I think Green Bay's defense can be as good as they want to be if they're healthy. And I really love what they're doing from a disguise standpoint. I love how they're stopping the run. It's not getting talked about enough. They are doing a fantastic job in run defense. For whatever you want to say about Jeff Hafley, he's come in and taken something that's been really bad for a long time in run defense, and he's basically fixed it overnight. I can't stress to you how hard that is to do. And we might be upset, frustrated at times with maybe some of the lack of pass rush or things like that. I talked about that with Mike Wall, I think it was a couple weeks ago, where we were talking about Rashawn Gary and like some of these guys where you wish there was a little bit more of a move set. You wish they were making progress as pass rushers. And, I kind of said, I'm like, what I will give them credit for is they've been much better against the run. And even like Rashawn, can't tell you how many times there was a overrun play by Rashawn early in his career, would get out of his gap, would get out of his assignment, would go big play hunting, try to make a sack or something. And all of a sudden, he gets upfield. There's a big hole. Either the quarterback or running back is running right through it. You really don't see that anymore. The discipline from the defenders up front in the front seven, so much better. I mean, just unbelievable night and day better. And that is a huge step for this team. And one of the things I talked about with Mike on that as well is like, you have to remember, this is year one of Jeff Hafley. There are steps to this. And just think of like Rich Bisaccia taking over the special teams, right? Like going from a really bad special teams to something that is resembling competent, that can sometimes be a 2-3 year project. It takes time to go from something that was so functionally poor to making it a respectable product. It like we all want it like that. And I get that, but it more often than not does not work that way. It usually takes some time, effort, and energy to go into that and really make it what you want to make it. And I don't think this Jeff Hafley defense is even remotely close to the peak of its powers or what it can be as they continue to get more and more integrated with it and understand it better and have the players that Jeff Hafley probably needs to even go with more unique defenses, more man-to-man, more other stuff, because he doesn't have the corners to be able to do that right now. So I think there's so much more out there for this defense, but what they're doing against the run has not gotten enough credit, and it's been really, really impressive to see. Love doesn't seem to be accurate, deep, or shallow. Just a little bit off in this one. I think overall, over the last month, ever since the bye week, he's been very accurate. A couple deep shots that, again, need to improve. It does feel like his deep ball is just a little bit off right now, but I'd be hesitant to say that's just on Jordan too. Just feels like the receiver, the quarterback aren't entirely on the same page. There was the one to Watson in this one where Watson looked like he couldn't locate it, maybe let up on the play a little bit. And again, just was a little bit off. I don't think that was just on Jordan. Do I want it better? Yes. Am I concerned about Jordan in any way? Not even remotely. Again, I really implore you to go out and look at quarterback play and just look at like stats week to week. Go look at Mahomes. Go look at Josh Allen. Like there are going to be games where it's not 300 yards, 4 touchdowns, no picks. There are going to be games that look like this. And I love the fact that Jordan still did not have a turnover-worthy play in this game. Like that's still awesome to me. Now you just need to be a bit more efficient. And again, I will say it one more time. I don't think that's just on Jordan. And I'm sure Matt would probably say something similar, that it takes all 11. That there was a couple times, there was one of the deep throws where he got hit on the play. I don't think that was the Watson one. And then one where on the Watson one, Watson couldn't locate it. And then it looked like he slowed down a little bit. So I do not think that this is just on Jordan by any means. And I think if you give him time, and we saw a couple of these deep shots to Watson lately, like if you give him time, you give him an opportunity and you get open, he's more often than not going to find you. And I'm cool with that. I have no concern at all with Jordan. Was this his best game? No. Was this his most efficient game? No. But he did enough to win, took care of the football, and sometimes that's enough. And today it was more than enough. Mike, just give McManus the bag, whatever it takes, money-wise. Yes, I'm right there with you. Give him that contract. It was one of the things that I said to accomplish in the last few games of the regular season. Give that man his money. He's definitely earned it. He looks fantastic. Mary Steph, can we also shout out 9 different ball carriers for 188 yards and 3 touchdowns? Pretty balanced with the passing tonight. I would actually argue it was more of just a dominant run game in this one. I don't even know that it was like a perfect balance in this one. I think, again, the pass offense could have done a little bit more, but 13 for 69 for Jacobs, 11 for 52 for Wilson, 6 for 23 for Brooks, which may not look the best, but I thought he ran incredibly hard for that 3.8 yards per carry, 2 for 23 for Watson, 1 for 14 for Melton, 1 for 5 for Reed, Love with 1 for 2, Kraft with 1 for 2, and then really 3 carries for -2 for Willis on kneel downs at the end. That would have been, instead of a 190 on 36 carries, if you take the kneel downs away, which gets you to 5.3 yards per carry, which looks quite a bit different, right? So they're at 4.8, which still looks good, but take the 3 kneel downs away and you're at 5.3 yards per carry. So I'm with you. I thought the running game still, again, I thought there were some inefficient runs mixed in there. I would like to see a few less 0, 1, 2 yard runs and just generate a little bit more movement there. But again, credit to the Saints defense. They never quit in this game. They never really just let Green Bay have their will and give up. I thought that was actually rather impressive, especially in a 34-0 game, cold weather, away from home, nothing to play for. Your offense can't do crap, and the defense just kept fighting. I was pretty damn impressed by that, if I'm being honest. Brandon, how was I so darn wrong about Josh Jacobs this last offseason? Brandon, it happens to the best of us. I've been team don't pay running backs. I think a lot of people have been team don't pay running backs. Saquon Barkley and Josh Jacobs are, I think, making some people re-question as to whether or not that's a good philosophy or not, because those two have definitely changed the offense. Obviously, Joe Mixon to an extent in Houston as well. Derrick Henry in Baltimore. Paying running backs has paid some dividends this offseason for some of these really good teams. And, it always swings, right? It's a beautiful thing about the NFL. Just as everyone goes pass heavy, defenses go smaller to counteract all the passing offenses. And then teams swing back the other way and say, oh, you've got all small defenses out there. We're going to pound the rock right at your face. And that's what's going to make us successful. And you see the best teams in the NFL right now, and they're able to run the ball successfully. And having guys like Josh Jacobs and Saquon Barkley and Derrick Henry go a long way in being able to accomplish that. And then, what's going to happen? All of a sudden, all these teams are going to go, we need more big tight ends. We need more power. We need more backs. We need more physical football. And then defenses are going to go heavy. And they're going to be like, we got to stop the run. If we don't stop the run, we're screwed. And then what happens? All these defenses are really heavy. They're set up to stop the run. You've got more nose tackles in there. You've got more big defensive ends. And then teams are going to spread them out, and they're going to go really fast and really small. And then they're going to go and then defenses are going to have to counter, and it just goes back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And right now, if you don't have a team or an offense that can run the ball, you are really behind the 8 ball. And it's a huge advantage. And what Josh Jacobs is bringing to this team is absolutely massive. Do you think Madden has distorted fans' perception of reality? In what way? There's absolutely a yes answer to this. It just depends on what way you want to view it. Fantasy football does the same. I think sensationalism and how we talk about certain players does the same. I think there's a lot of that. And, it is what it is. But I think there's also a huge chunk of just play that I think a lot of people understand at a very high level. Just depends. But I think there's definitely things that fantasy football and Madden have warped with people at times. It's not, the fantasy football mentality, the Madden mentality isn't exactly how it works. But again, it fuels people's fandom. They love the sport. I love that about it. And whether they're getting that from Madden, whether they're getting that from football card collecting, whether they're getting that from, fantasy football, whatever it is, it's a sport that everyone seems to love and care about. And those things are ultimately good for the game more than they're bad for the game. But yeah, it can definitely warp some things from time to time. Malik was great. Yeah, obviously had that really good throw to Jaden Reed. If that ball wasn't tipped at the line of scrimmage, probably would have been a touchdown to Dontavian Wicks. But yeah, he came in and did a nice job in this one. Thoughts on Brenton Cox? Is it scheme or skill? He's a good player. He's a really good player. I really like what I see out of him. Excited to watch the All-22. He's physical and he's violent. And he has a little bit of a pass rush plan, a little bit of nasty to him. The stupid roughing the passer call was dumb, and not on Brenton Cox. Just let him play. Give me a break. So yeah, I really like him as a player. Now I don't know that there's a ceiling of like really good starter there. I don't know that, but do I want him as one of my 4 rotational defensive ends and think he can be a really solid piece of that? Yeah, I do. I really, really do. I'm happy Green Bay found him. I'm happy they've made him more of a focal point within this defense. Focal point's probably aggressive, but have given him the opportunity in this defense. And I think it's paying dividends. I really like what I see out of Brenton Cox. Yeah, Joe, we talked about that. Really nice day for Zane Anderson, and he's been impressive. 11-4 and 34-0 next week, 12-4. Michael, I like the sound of that. Atmosphere at Lambeau was good. It was such a weird game. It was such a weird game. It was never in doubt. It was never in the balance. Green Bay, I mean, once they went up 7-0, it was basically done, right? And certainly when it was 14, and I mean, when it was 14-0 and Green Bay got the ball back again, Jacob Westendorf was next to me, and I'm like, they get a score here. It's a dagger right now, and you just knew it. And I think that makes it tough. And then the way that the Saints defense played, Saints defense just made you grind everything out. They weren't going to give you anything down the field. They weren't going to give you any explosives. And when it's just a game of 3 and 4 yard runs or like small completions, it's not like you have these big exciting plays. It's a lot of just death to the Saints defense by paper cut. Meanwhile, the Saints offense couldn't do anything, but you had 3 sacks, you had an interception, a forced fumble. There were like a handful of big plays on defense, but not like consistent. So it was just this weird kind of, you would just go through these long lulls of like, oh, yep, 3-yard run. Oh, yep, 3-yard run. Oh, yeah, 4-yard completion, 2-yard run, 5-yard completion, 1-yard run. And then especially when you got into the second half, it was like, oh, Brandon McManus field goal. And then the Saints would get the ball and it would be like, oh, incomplete pass, negative 1-yard run, incomplete pass. It was just like, there's a almost like, I don't want to say like, I don't know. It was just a weird game. It was just a weird, like usually when you get a 34-0 game, you're getting big explosive plays, a team dominating, a team just like taking it to it. And again, I give a lot of credit to the Saints defense for really just staying tough in this one because they really, really did. They made it, even when Green Bay was up big in the third quarter, they just weren't giving them the easy stuff. And I can't credit the Saints enough for that. Most teams would have just said, F it, I'm done. Like, we're good. Get me back on that bus. And the Saints just never did. It's a real credit to them. It may not sound like much, but it really, really was. And again, it's hard to be upset with a 34-0 complete thrashing and beatdown, but it was just a weird game in the fact that there wasn't a ton to always cheer for. It was just, again, kind of consistent play, which was good and really good. And it got you that 34-0 win, but it didn't have those big, huge moments in this one. A couple here and there. And the atmosphere was good. It wasn't bad. Just like you would normally expect a 34-0 beatdown to have like this unbelievable raucous, and just never really got to that point because of the way that the game progressed. We need second half offense against Minnesota Vikings and also going into, I'm assuming you're going to say the playoffs. Yeah, they need to be more complete throughout the course of the game. There's been these lulls, right? Whether it was against Detroit where they go punt, fumble to start the game, whether it was Seattle where they went, punt, turnover on downs, punt, something like, or I think it was punt, field goal, turnover on downs, punt, something like that for a 4-series stretch against Seattle. This one had a punt, field goal, punt stretch, if I remember correctly. You just can't have that little lull. And if they need to figure out a way to avoid that, I think that's going to be something that's going to be really big for this team moving forward. Let's see. Most hated Minnesotan, thank you so much for that. Really appreciate you a ton. Always coming up huge in these chats every single time. You are the absolute best. Seems like Love's deep ball is lacking right now. Yeah, we talked about this, Wesley. It hasn't been perfect, but I don't think it's just on Love either. One of the plays he got hit. Watson didn't seem to locate the ball. I'll have a better feel of it once I go back and kind of watch it on all 22, but I don't think it's just on Jordan. I think it's just something that the offense has to get a little bit better at, a little bit more in rhythm. Just seems a little bit off and disjointed throughout the entirety of the offense, not just on Jordan. Still dumb penalties. Were there dumb penalties in this game? What was the final? I feel like we're nitpicking things that we don't really need to. 6 for 60. Okay. I mean, Saints had 7 for 40. The Brenton Cox one, I don't agree with. Like, you could have easily let that go. I'm trying to think. There was the tripping on LVN. I mean, that's a heat of the moment sort of weird penalty. I'm not super concerned about that. I'm trying to think of what else there was. I don't know. To me, I'll just be honest. I did not get out of this game over a 34-0 win and be like, oh, those 6 penalties for, what was it? 6 penalties for 60 yards though. I just didn't even register with me whatsoever. Let's see. Going for the Cooper jersey. Love that. Game made me so happy. I hate the Saints so much. Maybe worse than the Lions. Wow. Why the hate for the Saints so much? I wouldn't put them in that same level. I don't have that same level of hatred towards the Saints. But hey, if you do, then awesome. Good, huge win for you. Didn't like Matt LaFleur screaming at 57 to make an example of him after that bad penalty. I didn't see that live. I'll have to go back and look at that. I didn't see him on the side. I didn't see the replay of it or whatever. But I will say this. Matt has a really unbelievable pulse of his team, and he knows who he needs to be hard on, and he knows who he needs to just let it go. And Brenton Cox might be, I'm not saying it is or isn't, but he might be one of those players that just gets more fired up when he gets yelled at. That's the way that he learns. That's the way that he needs to be coached. And that would be my guess. That'd be my guess, is that Matt understands that he needs to be that type of coach for Brenton Cox. And that if LVN made that same penalty, it may have been arm around him and being like, hey, we can't do that. It might be totally different. I think one of the most underrated aspects of coaching is understanding that you have to be different for every player. Some player, you get after them and yell at them and get in their face, and they're going to shut down and shrink. And that's not the way that they need to be coached. And they're going to get demotivated by that. Other players, you get after them, you get them in their face, and you basically show them up, or however you want to say it. They're going to get pissed off in a good way, and they're going to go out and play harder for you. And they're going to remember that lesson, and it's exactly what they needed. So I think it's hard to judge in the moment of what that player needed. And you don't know too, like maybe that's not the first time that that's happened, or maybe there have been some discipline issues recently with Brenton Cox. Like we don't know the backstory there either. Maybe this is something that they have been really honing in on with Brenton to make sure that he's playing within the realm of the, whatever it might be. We don't know the whole story there. And my guess is Matt knows when to turn that. Like he is a player's coach. I don't think there's any question about that. He is a player's coach, but there is a fine line with that where you have to be able to go that mode when you need to, and for certain players. And clearly Matt felt in that moment, and again, I haven't seen it, so I can't speak to it fully, but if that's the case, clearly Matt felt he needed to do that in that moment. And my guess is it was probably the right thing to do. I don't think Brenton Cox is going to shut down from that. I really don't. I think he'll respond to it, would be my guess. I'll have to take a look at Valentine. Again, I know there was the one play that there was a wide receiver pretty open with separation. Maybe one or two plays from Valentine that could have been better, but I didn't think this is also a game where I went back and thought like, whew, like Carrington Valentine looked like crap or anything like that. Like if you allow a couple completions in a game as a corner in a full game, like it's not the end of the world. That's going to happen. I would agree. It looked like Stokes had a good game at first glance. It's one of my favorite things. And it goes both ways. I try to temper anyone that's too high and just say like, hey, there's things that didn't go perfect in this game too. I really try to base it on realism. Like it's never as great as you think it is, and it's never as bad as you think it is. And I think the more you can stay even keeled and understand that there's things that, yes, this Green Bay team needs to do to improve, but also it's never going to be perfect. And you continue to strive for perfection, understanding that you're never going to reach it, while also looking for trends and things that are going to be issues, come playoff time, if they don't improve them. We're all looking out for those things. I think thinking that this is the final form of this team, or that they can't get better, or that things are going to be perfect. Imagine you're on the other side of this game. Imagine you're a Saints fan. I'm glad that I'm on this side of the fence. I'm glad that we get to talk about and nitpick a couple things that Green Bay could have done better in a 34-0 win and in the first shutout of the season. And are there things they can do better? Hell yeah, absolutely. So let's point those out. Show, hey, here's some things that Green Bay needs to work on. Doesn't need to be a panic though. There's no reason to panic. I don't think on anything I saw today. The 6 penalties, I'm not concerned about. Would I like to have seen Jordan be a bit more efficient? Yes. Am I concerned about this passing offense moving forward? Hell no. I think they're going to be just fine. And again, once it was 21-0, and the way that the Saints defense plays, and Green Bay going a little bit more vanilla and not using Josh Jacobs, I sort of get it. Like I really do. I was thinking about this a little bit. It's again, I don't want to equate things to youth sports all that much. There's a difference. You're a professional. I get it. All those things. I cannot tell you how many times that there's that game where you're going against just an inferior opponent, and it's like you're going into the game expecting to win like 14-0 in a game of soccer, and you all of a sudden like get to like midway through the first half or whatever, and you look up and it's like 3-0, and you're like, yeah, it's fine, but like why is this being so different? Like why are we not clicking on all cylinders? Why are we not doing anything? And it's like the other team is like, it's hard to bring your A+ energy when the other team just doesn't have that. And again, you already know the game is over. You're not going through the motions per se, but it's hard to reach that level of intensity when you go up against a big opponent that you know is going to be tough, and you have to bring your A game, and you can see that it's a little bit easier sometimes to have your A game in those situations. And you get into that game, and all of a sudden you get to the second half, and it's like, all right, it's 5-0, 6-0, but you were expecting like 14-0. It's like, yeah, it was fine. It was a 6-0 win. We're not going to complain over anything, but it just felt sort of bleh. It's because you don't have the level of competition that you're used to or that you're expecting. Again, I thought the Saints put up a fight, especially on defense. On offense, they didn't. On offense, they could do nothing. And it just had that sort of foregone conclusion to it. From the opening kickoff till the end, it was a foregone conclusion. Everyone knew it going in. Everyone knew it during. Everyone knows it after. They just aren't two teams on the same wavelength. They're two teams going in very opposite directions. And Green Bay treated it as such. And you sometimes have those. And it was still a 34-0 win. All that being said, still a 34-0 win. Yeah, they've been doing that a lot more. I don't. That makes me more worried because I know how much time goes into that. Now, they have multiple people working on it. I get that. I understand that. But that makes me also worried. You kind of want consistency with the person that's grading it a little bit more. And the fact that they're putting grades out right now, if you're doing it right, man, that shit takes a ton of time. It takes a ton of time to really grade it the way that you need to. So it almost like makes me feel like, I don't really love that from PFF, if I'm being honest. Defense was electric. I agree. They were really, really good in this one. Cooper finally started, though. I don't know how many snaps he got. Well, we can probably look at it from PFF standpoint since they already got everything up, I guess. Let's see. Defense totals. Coop played 38 snaps in this one out of 55. So 38 out of 55. You have to remember, I think they got some guys in late. I don't know if Cooper was still playing at the end. I have to go back and look at it. I mean, Xavier McKinney played 42. So that probably tells you there were probably about 42 starting defensive snaps in this one before they started to pull guys off a little bit. But he played 38 snaps, which, by the way, was the sixth most. It was Wilson. Eric Wilson played 55. Carrington played 50. Nixon and Zane Anderson played 47. McKinney played 42. And then Cooper played 38. So the sixth most snaps of anyone on defense. And yeah, I think that feels about right for this particular game. Kalen Saunders had a really nice day. Yeah, he was all over the place. All right, friends, I'm assuming the condensed version is up. I really hate to leave 900 of you just in here and not sorry, weirdo chat I was looking at. And not continue to chat with you guys, but I have a crap ton I need to get done. Lots on the to-do list tonight. I will get a podcast out to you guys as soon as I be able to go through and do the rewatch and start looking at some stuff in a little bit greater detail, put those notes together, and then go from there. But any injuries, Christian Watson was the one we want to keep an eye on. Jacobs got a little bit beat up, but I think his reason for not going back in was more just keeping him fresh. I don't think anything more there. Hopper got hurt early, but he came back and played not only on special teams, but played on defense at the end of the game. So Christian Watson, the only one that we have to kind of keep an eye on, at least it would seem. All right, friends. Yes. Remember to tell the folks to like and subscribe. Thank you for that. I appreciate it. Yes. Like, subscribe, comment, give those 5-star reviews where you can. If you're listening to the podcast, not now, but in general on like Apple Podcasts or Spotify, those reviews are massive. So make sure to do that. Check out memberships if you get a chance. I'll see you all very soon. Have a Merry Christmas to all of you who celebrates. Happy holidays to the rest of you. Happy New Year to all of you. I will talk to you all very, very soon. Enjoy your Victory Tuesday. But until next time, and as always, go Pack Go.